Good evening and welcome to the January 22nd, 2015 City of Xenia Council meeting. We've been in special session since 6 p.m. this evening talking about our 2015 street improvement program and discussion on issuing bonds for a proposed facilities project. We're ready to begin our regular session now at 7. First with the invocation by Dan Jordan from Xenia Grace Chapel, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Mills. If you would please rise with me for the invocation and pledge, please.
Pause with me in prayer, if you would. Father, we are so grateful and thankful that we can come to you. We thank you for your love and goodness. We ask you, Lord, to be with the council and that you would give them wisdom and guidance. We thank you for their service and their ministry to our community. And we know that there are some big decisions that are being made. And so we ask, Lord, again, for your spirit to be here. May there be a spirit of peace. May you, Father, be honored and glorified in decisions that are being made too. Thank you, Lord, for your goodness. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan and Councilwoman Mills. May I have roll call, please?
Vice President Long.
Here.
Councilman Kaup.
Here.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Here.
Councilman Smith. Councilwoman Mills.
Here.
Mayor Bayless. President Engel.
Here.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilman Smith and Mayor Bayless.
Thank you very much. I have a motion to excuse the mayor and Councilman Smith for other commitments that they have. Do I have a second, please?
Second, Mr. President.
Second by Councilman Lauterbach. Any discussion or question on the motion, please? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, we have an approval of minutes. May I have a motion, please, to approve our January the 8th, 2015 regular session minutes, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach, seconded by the Vice President. Any discussion or question on the minutes, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Abstain.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. This time we have a special presentation, quarterly economic development update. Mr. Steve Brodsky, please take the podium.
Thank you, Mr. President. Apologize, I'm getting one of those colds that are going around. Despite the holidays, it's actually been a rather busy quarter with a decent amount of activity. We received 10 leads from either the state of Ohio or the Dayton Development Coalition, including 7 building requests and 3 site requests. We were able to respond to one of the building requests. The others had requirements that we couldn't meet. Several required rail. Others were either a ceiling height or a building size that we do not have in the inventory. Of the 3 site requests, we were also able to respond to one, the other 2 requiring rail. We are excited. We're working along with our partners at the county and Jobs Ohio West, Dayton Development Coalition, as well as the state Jobs Ohio, with a regional company that is looking at a rather major expansion. They are looking at several states, so it is not just Ohio that they are looking at. We've met with them a few times. We're meeting with them again in 2 weeks. If all goes well, we hope to land this company certainly in Xenia in next 3 years. It would probably create slightly over 30 jobs, but there is the potential in the next 10 years to create several hundred jobs. And these would be high-paying jobs. They're in a very specialized area. I can't really say at this point what that is or who the company is, but we do continue to have some very, very good discussions with them. Some of you may have seen last fall that Barco simulation on Bellbrook Avenue has been sold. They're a Belgian company. They have sold that particular operation to an American defense contractor called Esterline. That transaction is due to close really any time. It was supposed to be sometime the beginning of January. We have reached out several times, and the company has indicated that once they are complete with that transaction, we will sit down with the new leadership to discuss some plans. There has been some discussion about a potential for an expansion at Barco, and certainly we want to lend our assistance there wherever we can. Very important company, not only to the city but to the region. Of course, they do high-end flight simulator projectors. I know several of you were able to go to Barco a couple of years ago when they did their open house for their demonstration center. Some very interesting technology, and I think we should all be proud that we have that company here in our backyard. As I mentioned my last report, we have also been working with DP&L on a new site certification program. There are 2 sites in Xenia that are going through the program, one that the city is taking through in the Xenia Industrial Park. The county is working to get the OVCH site certified. Excuse me, I believe you all should have received invitations from the city manager. The site consultants that are doing this certification will be in town next Thursday, doing a meeting with selected officials to talk about that process, what it means for those sites, why it's necessary to go through that process, and what some of that is. So I certainly hope that as many of you as possible can join us for that. In our case, after they are completed with that community leader visit, we will do a site visit, which includes both some inside, just going over the application packet and answering some questions, and then actually going out on site, walking the site so they can get a better feel for it. At this point, our anticipation is that we'll go through the 3rd and final phase this spring, which is providing even more detailed information than we already have provided. We anticipate sometime in June those letters and that official certification will come out, and then we'll be able to market those sites as a certified shovel-ready site. Again, this is very important because this means that it has gone through all of the necessary due diligence, and site selectors and real estate professionals know that the due diligence is done, and that when we say it's shovel ready, they can tell their clients that yes, if you go to this site, you will be able to start construction. You're not going to have to wait 2 years for them to build a road or to get the utilities in there. Excuse me. As far as downtown, we're excited. There's 2 new restaurants. One of them is Solar Flare, and the city was able to provide some assistance in the form of a microloan to assist that company or that business in opening. If you haven't been there, I recommend that you try to make it over. Typically they're open for lunch, but Friday and Saturday they are open for dinner. Outstanding food, Southern comfort food. They do change their menus. So good food, good prices, very nice atmosphere. Glad to have them there in what was most recently Rubio's there on Cincinnati Avenue. We continue to work with One Bistro. They are looking to open a permanent location in Xenia towards Independence at 87 East Main Street. While they are working on that renovation, however, once a week on Thursdays, they have been bringing their food truck to Xenia, where you can go and get it. It is a nonprofit ministry. Essentially, everything on their menu is at a suggested price of $6. If you cannot afford to pay, then you do not need to pay. However, they do request that if you are able to pay, you pay it forward and maybe pay a little bit extra. It's an outstanding concept. The food is truly gourmet food, And again, we're very excited that they're looking to come here permanently. Hopefully sometime late this spring or perhaps this summer, they will be open permanently at 37 East Main. Of course, we have been working with the developers across the street at Town Square. The Family Entertainment Center, I believe, is going very well. And we should be seeing activity in that building literally any day now. The old Kmart, that's a little bit more complex of a project. Some additional subsidies that we're looking at, some TIF legislation. As you can imagine, that takes quite a bit of work, but we are continuing to move forward with that project as well. And we are also working with another downtown business owner on Main Street, utilizing our DCAP program, looking at the potential for some upper floor development, probably as housing, possibly as commercial office space. It could be a combination of the two. Heritage Architecture, Steve Avdikov has been working with them. In fact, I believe it was Tuesday we just saw the first preliminary plans for this building. And of course, that's one of the things that we have been talking about for a number of years to really encourage downtown development, is to get people living downtown, so we're pretty excited about that. We do have some bad news, as I'm sure several of you have seen. The Hallmark store in Town Square has announced that they will be closing. We did contact the owner a couple weeks ago. Essentially, it's a matter of economics. I think this is another case where, as we consistently say, this is why you need to shop local whenever possible. And I will also add that whenever possible, please shop small businesses. They truly are the backbone of our community, and we should support them whenever possible. We did offer some alternative locations to the owner. At this point, I understand, at least at this time, he has decided to not pursue those, but we will continue to stay in contact and try to convince him to open another Hallmark store here in Xenia. Excuse me. A couple of the environmental projects. We've talked several times about the what we call the Hub District, which is the property essentially behind Xenia Station, the AV building and the property behind it. The city applied for a targeted brownfield assessment. This is a program funded by the U.S. EPA, and it's administered by the state EPA, the Ohio EPA. For us, it's actually a very easy program. While we did the application, the state hires the consultant that comes in. They administer the grant. While we do set up the site access and we have walked through them and provided them information, we don't have any grant administration. We're not even a pass-through as far as the money is concerned. The state handles all of that with their contractor. We did do a walkthrough right after Christmas of both the AV building and the Collier property behind it. They are coming back in the next couple of weeks to do an asbestos survey in those buildings. And we have requested, and they are forwarding on that request, to do what's known as a limited phase 2, which means that they'll be doing some basic subsurface work to see what some of the contamination is. Once we get that report back, we still have the money that we received a couple of years ago from the state as far as the Brownfield Action Planning Grant. That can be used to supplement and do additional phase 2 work. And we have again applied for a US EPA community-wide assessment that would look not just at those properties, but a larger area of the Hub District to do some environmental assessments so we can see what needs to be done to allow us to start developing those properties and putting them back into productive use. The FEMA project by the water treatment plant, we have closed on the first property and just received back Tuesday, quotes for the demolition of that property. So that will be happening here in the next few weeks. And we have come to an agreement with another property owner on 2 additional properties. And we anticipate we'll close on those 2 properties probably the end of March. Again, this is a grant through FEMA to purchase these properties. help relocate the residents, both the tenants and the owners, and then take them down, and it's primarily to help secure the water treatment plant. And then at the end, you'll see we have just some basic numbers on our unemployment. For November, which was the last month available by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, our unemployment rate is down to 4.9%. Unemployment fell, total employment has increased, and the labor force has also increased. So when we can see unemployment going down, labor force and employment going up, that's always a good thing. Counties at 4.3%. The Dayton metro area and the state are at 4.5%. This is probably the closest that we've been to those other entities in a very long time. So happy to take any questions.
Any questions for the speaker, please?
Excuse me.
Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This time we have opportunity for audience comments. If anyone would care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, you're welcome to do so. Please step to the podium, provide us your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 to 4 minutes, please.
Hello. I'm sorry for my attire. I came from the gym. My name is Faith Samuels. I live at 261 Fairview Circle here in Xenia. Been a resident here for several years. I'm a hospice nurse. Lived here. My family is here. A couple of the questions or comments I'd like to talk about or discuss would be if there's a proposal that we could have the voters vote on whether or not we could do the city building. So that would go to, I don't know the proper terms. I'm just coming here to offer another thought or suggestion. Or if, I heard them talking about the Kmart building. Is there another building that's already here that we could use instead of building something for brand new? So that's basically it. And then I plan to be more involved in what's going on in the city. I think that, you can't change anything unless you're willing to kind of put your foot in it and get into it also. So plan to start coming and see what I can do to make some more sense out of everything.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else care to come and address the City of Xenia Council this evening? Seeing none, we will move to reports of committees. Councilman Long, please, Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on January 15th. In that meeting, we had one item on the agenda, which the Commission voted to approve a PUD modification to the Xenia Grace Chapel property to allow for a food pantry to operate outside of their accessory structure. That's the only item on the agenda.
Thank you very much. Anything for Planning and Zoning, and Councilman Long, please. Seeing none, Mayor Bayless is absent. Mr. Merriman, could you comment on mayors and managers, please?
President, mayors and managers had their organization meeting last week, and I am pleased to, I should first say that the Director of Mayors and Managers, Mr. John Whitehofer, is resigning, so there will be some change in leadership with the group. But I am pleased to announce that we are tentatively scheduled to host the City of Xenia in partnership with Central State University Mayors and Managers Group at Central State in November. And that's the first time the City of Xenia has hosted an event. So we're very pleased to have them to join us here later this year.
Thank you very much. Anything for the city manager on mayors and managers, please? Seeing none, Councilman Lauterbach, NVRPC, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to read this whole email, but this comes from our Executive Director's report, January the 8th. And he starts out with a greater majority in the House of Representatives and new majority in the Senate. The 114th Congress will have the opportunity to either continue the current inadequate funding levels or strengthen federal transportation policy for many years to come. Due to the current funding bill expiring in May and fuel costs dropping to near $2 per gallon, many feel emboldened to increase the federal gas tax as the source of new funding to restore the Highway Trust Fund and fund a new longer-term surface transportation bill. not unlike previous years, there are groups of congressmen and senators coming together to sponsor like-minded proposal that may eventually become the law of the land. And again, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I guess it all comes down to every time there's a change in leadership, us at MVRPC have to worry about what kind of funding we're going to get. So I'm hoping that we can at least maintain the current funding and possibly get some new funding to help all of our infrastructure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anything for Councilman Lauterbach and MVRPC, please? So I think the bottom line would be if a citizen feels motivated to write to his or her congressman, now would be the time to do so.
Correct.
On that particular issue.
Yes.
Thank you. Items from City Council and Mayor. I have one item this evening, which is the Board and Commission and Committee assignments for 2015 that has been presented to you. It is essentially unchanged from the previous year. If there are, or excuse me, I am seeking at this point in time a request for motion to make the following 2015 Board, Commission, Committee assignments. And in discussion with the law directors, no need to read each one of these as we have it, and it will be a part of the city record and minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by the Vice President, seconded by Councilman Lauterbach. Any discussion or question on the motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Anything else from my colleagues for items from City Council and Mayor, please? Seeing none, moving to reports of city offices. Mr. City Manager.
President Council, 4 items this evening. First is a request for approval as emergencies of amendments to Xenia Codified Ordinance Part 2, Administrative Code, Title 8, Boards, Commissions, and Committees, Chapter 274, Civil Service Commission, Section 274.5, Unclassified Service, and Section 274.07, Classified Service, and to Part 2, Administrative Code, Title 6, Administration, Chapter 260, Employees Generally, Section 260.03, Pay Sources of the Codified Ordinances. These amendments to code will allow for the creation of the Public Relations Coordinator position as well as reintroduction of the Fire Inspection position as a part-time role. These positions were discussed during the budget review process, and Council did support both positions being added to the budget. While both positions will allow the city to pursue improved services and customer relations, our feeling is that the Public Relations Coordinator position is a critically urgent component of a more proactive approach to our outreach and marketing. The position will serve as the lead in coordinating the development and implementation of broad marketing and brand management plans, managing the city website and social media accounts, the coordination of all public outreach, including our newsletter. Requesting approval of these amendments as emergencies in order to expedite the recruitment and selection process, noting that once we have someone on board, we have considerable work to do to facilitate the rollout of the many new marketing and communications initiatives that we have detailed to Council and intend on pursuing.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, as an emergency to pass Part 2 Administrative Code, Title 8?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. Second, please.
Second.
Second by the Vice President. Any discussion or question on the motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. And now a motion, please, also as an emergency to pass Part 2 Administrative Code, Title 6.
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. And a second, please.
Second.
Second by the Vice President. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next this evening, staff presents a recommendation to introduce a resolution amending Appendix 2 of the Employee Benefits Manual to comply with the state minimum wage. Effective for the new year, the state minimum wage was increased from $7.85 per hour to $8.10 per hour. The city must maintain compliance with the new minimum wage range and therefore must take action to reflect this in policy. While the new rate was effective January 1st of this year, we do not presently have any employees making minimum wage, and so the measure does not have any imminent need for approval, but obviously we want to get it out there and get it into the record.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, may I have an introduction of this resolution, please?
So introduced, Mr. President.
Introduced by Councilman Louderback. Thank you.
An annual component of our capital program is replacement of our police division fleet. As is our standard practice, we are recommending the replacement of 3 frontline patrol vehicles to maintain our 3-year replacement rotation. This would include purchase of 2 2015 Dodge Charger police vehicles from Key Chrysler here in Xenia, and 1 2015 Ford Police Interceptor SUV from Lebanon Ford. Additionally, we are recommending replacement of 1 unmarked unit for service in the Detective Bureau, which would also be a 2015 Ford Interceptor SUV. These replacements were detailed in the 5-year capital improvement plan and were included in the 2015 budget. As always, the police division is working in concert with our garage supervisor to assess vehicle performance and maintenance costs to determine an appropriate course of action for replacements. Data on maintenance has been included in your packets.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to authorize the city's participation in the State of Ohio Cooperative Purchasing Program to purchase the 2 named vehicles?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mills. Second, please.
Second.
Second by the Vice President. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Councilman.
Thank you very much. I spoke to the city manager earlier today about the rotation of the vehicles, and I mean, since we've been talking about the SUVs and the vehicles, the unmarked vehicles, I mean, on a regular basis, we've got 2 dark blue SUVs, 1 light blue SUV, 1 gray SUV, 1 maroon SUV. There's a dark blue Crown Vic that's unmarked, and then a blue Dakota. We're replacing the blue Dakota.
Right.
I mean, I guess my concern is we're buying another unmarked SUV, and I mean, I've made it a conscientious effort to look at the lot when I drive by here during the day, and a majority of the days, all these SUVs are sitting in our parking lot, and in the evenings they're gone. Who are these vehicles assigned to? Do we have a need for another unmarked SUV? That, I mean, if a majority of the days these vehicles are sitting in the lot, I mean, I question, can't we, reuse these Chargers that we're pulling off everyday fleet vehicles? And if the captains and the detectives need a car that they hardly ever drive, I mean, they've only got 80,000 miles on them.
They have 80,000 miles, but that's street miles in this town. It doesn't include idle hours and all those types of things. By the time we get rid of these cars, they're trashed. The seats are broken down. They're not comfortable to ride in. In some cases, they're almost not safe to ride in because in a lot of cases, we deadline a car for the last 6 months before we replace it. I would not want to use that as a vehicle and have the possibility that detective or that command officer has to make an emergency run in that vehicle when they're that age and they're in that condition. I understand what you're saying, but each of those people who are assigned those unmarked cars has a job here in the building. And so, yes, for a lot of times those cars are sitting, but the upside of that is we end up keeping those cars 10 years because of that. They're not something that we do it. We're not adding a new unmarked vehicle, we're replacing one. So we're not increasing the fleet or increasing our costs in terms of insurance or upkeep or those types of things. So, I think we look at that, and the problem is that when we need them, we need them. And generally what tends to happen is if we have a homicide or any kind of major case out there, I've got 4 detectives going 4 different directions, and they need 4 separate cars to go those 4 different directions. So if we had a way of doing that, I would be more than happy to take a look at that. The other option would be you would look at is the command staff who's driving those cars. We're a very flat organization. We don't have a lot of layers of management and that kind of stuff. So again, when we have that major component, those people have to respond immediately to those situations and that type of thing, and they have to have vehicles available to them with the equipment and with the things they need so they can get the jobs done.
I just want to add real quickly too, and the chief sort of said it, but the unmarked vehicles do not have the same rotation that our marked cruisers do. The marked cruisers about a 3-year rotation, depending. I think the chief said today that some of the cruisers we have on the rotation to be swapped out this year are actually not the oldest, but based on the maintenance costs, they're the most costly. But again, my key point is that those unmarked vehicles are on a much longer rotation. As you can see, we're replacing a 2002 unit. So we do keep those vehicles a lot longer in service.
Is this the last Crown Vic to come off the road?
No, and actually, as the city manager said, the first two Chargers we put out, normally we take a Chargers, or we take the marked cars come in, they go to my captains for 1 or 2 years, and they have very low mileage on it, and then we run them as cruisers for 3 years after that, so we get 4 to 5 years on them. Those two, because it was a change in model and those types of things, we immediately put them on the road, and so the mileage went up on them much faster than we normally do. So it turns out, because of some also repair problems and that type of thing we had, that those need to be replaced before the last 2 Crown Vics do. So there's still two Crown Vics in the fleet that'll have to be replaced. But Keith's assessment was that we were better off to keep those for another year than these 2 Chargers.
So is it safe to say that the Chargers are costing us more repair costs than the Crown Vics?
Well, the Crown Vics aren't available anymore, so that's kind of a mute point.
Rather than
We've had some issues with the Chargers. I will tell you, and Keith would tell you, Keith Chrysler, after we had the meeting the first year, has been nothing but excellent in terms of taking care of our problems and helping us with that and getting with the manufacturer and getting them to take care of it. So while we've had some costs, again, those costs tend to come in the third and fourth years. Generally, your first 2 years are covered with the manufacturer's warranty and that kind of stuff. But as you get into that third year, it starts dropping out. But they've been good to work with. So I don't have a problem to continue to have a split fleet like we're doing with the Chargers.
I would also add that I talked at length with the garage supervisor the other day, and he indicated that police forces and garages around the country have provided a lot of feedback back to Chrysler Dodge about some of the performance issues with tires and brakes on the Chargers. So they are in the process of making some structural changes to the product to make it a little bit more reliable. But again, I want to echo the chief's point that both Keith and the chief, that Key has been fantastic in addressing the issues very timely with the service, and they make us a priority. So they followed through on everything that they promised that they would do.
And actually, Key has the state bid this year. Each year, normally we have to waive competitive bidding, but they actually got the state bid this year. So,
Councilman?
Yeah, I think this council would agree with me. We are all about buy local, and that's why Key Chrysler is very critical.
Absolutely.
I mean, 'cause they're one of our good corporate company. But anyway, and getting back, I think even Jim Collins and Terry Toby came to a meeting last year
Absolutely.
and made a promise, if you have any issues, because there was a concern, there was maintenance issues, they came and said, if you have any issues, get a hold of us right away. So I think I will attest that they've been very good about working with us.
absolutely.
And again, I want to commend us buying at least some of the vehicles locally. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions, please? Councilman?
So these maintenance reports are the lifetime of the vehicle. These are our first Chargers, so they're about 4 or 5 years old. I mean, we spent considerable money on some of these, over $16,000 in that lifespan alone.
And some of that was some of the problems that Key Chrysler's identified and they're working on. One of the changes that we made this year is we decided to try the V8s. So that's a slightly more expense, but what we're hearing from across the country is that they're having less problems with the V8s than they were with the V6s. So we're going to take a look at those for 1 year and see what that does.
Okay, when I look at the other ones, I mean, most, they're about 5,000 to 7,000 a year, and most of that's brakes and tires to make sure the business. So.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, please? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
We have a motion now, please, to authorize the remaining use of funds, $5,654, to purchase 2 Federal Signal 51-inch Valor 2 color LED light bar packages. Say that in one mouth.
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
second.
Second by Councilman Kaup. Discussion or question on this motion, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Carried.
And finally, please, a motion to authorize the city manager to surplus and dispose of the older replaced vehicles through wholesale auctions.
So So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mills. Second, please.
Second, Mr. President.
Second by Councilman Latterback. Any discussion or question on our final motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long. Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Finally, this evening, staff is recommending to City Council that a resolution be introduced to formalize the city's intent to withdraw from the Greene County Regional Planning and Coordinating Commission effective for 2015 fiscal year, based on feedback from this council and from assessment from staff. The services provided by the commission are increasingly redundant given the city's internal capacity and duplicative services available through Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. While our intent is to continue to be active as a participant in regional planning matters, at this time we feel it is in the city's best interest to withdraw from formal participation in the group.
Thank you. May I have an introduction of the resolution, please? Introduced by the Vice President. Thank you.
That is all I have this evening.
Thank you very much. Anything for our city manager this evening? Councilman.
Can we at the next meeting maybe get an update where we're at on the union negotiations with the new union?
Yeah, we can, do we have anything planned before? I don't recall from our agenda.
I think we actually talked about doing it in executive session at the next
Is it
meeting.
the next one?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can,
probably 12.
we'll coordinate with
Thank
council,
you.
with the president of council on executive session, but I think probably 30 minutes would be sufficient. We are currently with both IFF and the ASME clerical, and they've been meeting. In fact, they've met every day this week, so we can certainly provide an update.
Thank you. Anything else for the city manager, please? Seeing none, Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two items this evening, the first of which I'm asking for introduction of an ordinance to issue GO bonds for the renovation of the City Hall into a Justice Center and the construction of a new administration building. We anticipate having to issue bonds in the amount of $7,649,000.952. At this point, that is an estimate because we will not be opening bids until February 3rd. Which is why we're asking council for a not-to-exceed amount of $8 million on this bond ordinance. I want to emphasize that the introduction of this ordinance commits this council to nothing as far as issuing the bonds. The key point will be at the next meeting where we would entertain the second reading of an ordinance, and a lot of that will be conditioned upon seeing what those bids come in on February 3rd and whether we would present that second reading of the ordinance to the city council. But at that point, when that second reading would occur, basically does set in motion a number of things that would actually get us to issue those bonds before we actually come back to council for an award of the contract. So basically, we need to have the funds available before we award the contract, which is why the critical step will be at that second reading in terms of making a decision going forward with this project or not going forward with this project. Again, the estimated amount on the debt service over that 25-year period is as around $488,864.67. Most of that would come from our general capital improvement fund, with the remaining portion out of our enterprise funds, water, sewer, and sanitation. The amount drops after the first 10 years because during that first 10 years we are debt servicing, furnishings, fixtures, IT costs over a 10-year period, whereas the main construction portion would be over the 25-year period. So it does drop to an estimate of around $410,000 for the subsequent 15 years. As I'm pointing out, this is all an estimate at this point because we don't have a final cost on the construction portion that would give us a better idea if that $7.65 million figure is where we're going to be or whether it might be hopefully a little less than that. That's what we're hoping for. But at this point, that's kind of where we're at. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions before I seek an introduction?
I'll just
Councilman?
make a comment. I'm just making a general comment. The introduction of these bonds are the bonds that are going to pay for the facilities project while it's $8 million, the total public funds cost to the taxpayer is going to be over $11 million. So, but this is just the financing of the bonds, to put the bonds out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion, please? My thanks to you and city staff for putting together this rather complex portion of the overall project. I think you have done an excellent job of bringing it together as we reach a decision point on this overall project. So my thanks to you.
Thank you.
May I have an introduction of the ordinance, please?
I'll introduce.
Introduced by the Vice President. Thank you very much.
The second item I have this evening is the schedule of bills in the amount of $647,895.44.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to pay our bills this evening?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach, and a second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Any discussion or question on the bills, please? Councilwoman.
Two questions. I'm sorry I didn't ask this before. I just now saw this. But, one statement. One is that there's a $1,000 lease payment that's per month for our East Main Street location. That's our probation department.
The probation as well as the court records.
And court and records. So, if we do proceed with any building projects, that trivial amount will come back. What is the Fifth Third on page 5? What is the Fifth Third Bank leasing department? What are those payments for? The building security lease interest?
I think that's, we debt serviced a number of years ago, the security system here at City Hall. And so that's a payment for that. Not sure how many more payments we have left on that, but.
Okay, there's not seen for this, but thank you. So,
Thank you. Any other question on the bills, please?
Just
Counsel.
just a comment. We are paying App Architecture $77,655 towards design of the facilities. I think the total we're up to is, what, about $350,000 plus that we have spent with that.
Right. And just for everybody's benefit, those amounts are rolled into the bond issue. So that's included with the construction portion and some of the other things that we're looking at financing.
Thank you.
So even though we're spending the dollars, we have the ability, if council goes forward with the project, to basically pay for that through the debt service and amount.
Bless you.
Thank you. Any other question on the bills, please? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut. Aye. Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
That's all I have this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anything for the Finance Director's office, please? Seeing none, Mr. Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing this evening.
Anything for our Law Director this evening, please? Seeing none, any updates to our summary of action items, Mr. City Manager?
Obviously, this evening we've done the quarterly economic development update. On our schedule, we are set to bring community funding guidelines, updates on those guidelines back to the next meeting. As I mentioned to council before the meeting tonight, we'll have an update separately on status of the redevelopment projects across the street via email probably tomorrow. And we are in the process of trying still to get the pledge lined up with students here. We're trying to work on a program, an incentive program for students, and that's how we're trying to do that. I did send council sent council an email earlier today. We were looking at scheduling that next joint session for, I guess, the second Tuesday in March. So I'll be coordinating back with everyone to make sure schedules work for that updated joint session.
Thank you very much. Any changes, additions, or subtractions? Councilman.
Just a thought, if we can't get the school board involved, what about getting maybe churches or there's a young lady in the audition. To me, it's very important we say the Pledge of Allegiance and say prayer before every meeting. Prayer, I've been attacked by a couple of atheist groups like, what's your opinion on doing away with prayer? I tell them it's going to be over my dead body. I sincerely believe that we need prayer and we need the Pledge of Allegiance. So, I like to get our young people involved in our city council meetings, and that's why I proposed it. And we've been kind of dragging our feet. The schools, in my opinion, have been kind of dragging their feet. So maybe we could expand it to churches or just any kid that wants to come here and say the Pledge of
We
Allegiance.
did have a staff member recommend we also look at Boy Scout and Girl Scout troops as well.
Yeah.
So that's something to follow.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
Excellent idea. Thank you. Anything else, please, for the summary of action items? Reading of communications and discussion. Councilman Lauterbach, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just two things. I forgot to commend the financial department for their financial award, and I can't remember how many years has it been.
31,
That's a long time.
a long time.
Yeah, but anyway, that's says volumes about you and your staff. And potholes, if any citizens have potholes, please call 376-7265. I know, I'm sure they're getting a lot of calls, but they're pretty expedient about taking care of your potholes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mills, please.
Thank you. I wanted to just bring up that the One Bistro truck is at Towards Independence every Thursday when the weather is above freezing. So if you are too cold to go out there, they won't be there either. But it is wonderful. I've enjoyed their food, and it is a gourmet meal. The items that they have is absolutely delicious, and so I just encourage everyone, and the time is between 11 and 2 p.m. So please go out there and join them for lunch. Another item that's happening in Xenia is a chocolate walk in the downtown. So on February the 7th, between 2 and 4 p.m., that there's going to be a delicious chocolate walk. There are 15 businesses that you will go to and sample yummy chocolate. And 10 of those are selling tickets. So I wanted to list it out because you need to buy your tickets. They're $10 each, and you need to buy them before the end of this month, January 31st. But they are T-Lane Designs Limited, The Flower Stop, Consigns and Designs, Our Family Soap, Blue Jacket Books, Country Cottage Shop, Rusty and Chippy's Vintage Boutique, Jink Boutique, Sweets Boutique, and Xenia Shoe and Leather. So if you can stop by one of those locations and buy some tickets, you won't regret it, and that is on February 7th, a Saturday. So please come and support us. And then I just want to thank everyone for all the kindness shown during my mother-in-law's acute illness and her passing. It's been a tough time for our family, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Kaup, please.
Thank you very much. I would just like to congratulate Steve Mathis and Doug Cope in the fire division on their retirements, and wish Alex the area good luck in his future endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. One, I was able to attend, the mayor and I were able to attend the Simon Kitten Bridges of Hope open house, which was held last weekend. If anyone gets a chance to go online and check out, I think there's a website, and I do not know that off the top of my head. You don't know, Dan? So, but go and search that project. I know the Gazette has run some articles and stuff in there about the work they're doing to bring that ministry and that building itself back to public service. So I want to thank that group. I'm also pleased to announce that for the third year, we are going to, meaning myself and a group of volunteers, mainly my wife does a lot of the work. We'll be hosting the Xenia Youth Expo again on March 7th, 2015 this year. The registration is open, free to those groups, if it's a sports group or civic groups, anyone who offers goods or services to benefit our youth. It's free to register and attend that event. You can come see 30 to 35 different organizations who provide activities and services focused mainly on our youth. And once again, we will have dance and karate teams, and I'm trying to get a school choir to come and entertain us while we're there. And if you're interested in registering for that, again, it's free for any group who wants to register. You go to xeniayouth.com and sign up right online. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The only thing that I have this evening, a public service announcement, not having to do with the city necessarily, but city individuals who own dogs. Please make sure you go to the county's facility and purchase your dog licenses before the 31st of January, or I believe there is a not insignificant penalty associated with registering your dog after that time. Other than that, I would just encourage all of Xenia citizens to continue being safe out there. It still is the winter time. Our public service staff is doing a great job attempting to keep our roads in good shape, but Mother Nature, I'm sure, is not quite through with us yet for the winter, so please be safe and let us all look forward to a much warmer spring where we can be out and about and enjoying a lot of the things that BRCA will bring to us for the upcoming year. So if there's nothing further, I would ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach, second, please.
Second.
Second by the Vice President. Roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.